Long before credit cards were introduced, for centuries people have been blinded by the idea of credit. Purchase something now, pay for it later. It's a way to keep the poor poor and the rich rich. It's now used more than ever, with your credit score one of the most important parts of your life. It plays a part in how you eat, the clothes you wear, your home bills, and even where you live. Let's unpack the vicious story of credit and how you can stay clear of this financial stress forever. In the late 1700s, a man named Mayer Rothschild started building his financial family empire, alongside his 5 sons who all were responsible for one of the Rothschild banks in Europe's biggest locations: England, Austria, France, Italy, and Germany. The banks targeted the rich, allowing them to store their gold in the Rothschild banks and be able to travel Europe without having to cart along all their wealth in gold. The banks were a genius invention, and it allowed the rich who stored their gold here to take out a credit note with how much gold they had stored. This meant they could travel Europe gold-free and take out how much they had in gold in any of the other Rothschild banks using their credit note, and thus beginning the real use of credit and where the financial system was born. Back in 1949, a thing called a Diners Club card was introduced by a man named Frank X. McNamara. The Diners Club was the first real card payment company in the world, allowing its users to eat out at restaurants using the credit card, and for them to pay it back later at the end of the month when they essentially could afford it. It was actually known as a charge card, not a credit card, and unlike 99% of other charge cards, this company actually succeeded. In 1949, over 10,000 people had signed up, and shockingly 10 years later, in 1959, the card had over 1 million members, sending shockwaves through the financial world. Times were changing and there was a new king in town: credit. The world is run on greed. When people get something, they want more and more and more. The old saying goes, no one ever is truly satisfied, and this played right into credit's hands. And the rich, of course, but we'll get onto them in a minute. Due to popular demand in the 1950s, more and more credit card companies were introduced. Banks were now offering credit cards, and thus beginning a credit score. Working on the success of the Diners Club card, in 1958, Bank of America released the first general purpose credit card, called the Bank Americard. They sent it to millions of Americans, but in short terms, they fucked up. The card was flimsy, no metal strip, they couldn't keep track of what people were buying, and the Bank of America lost millions of dollars. Credit card fraud became incredibly easy for people to take advantage of, but this actually turned out to be a big, huge success for them. It generated a huge customer base and people wanted in. They improved their card, fixed the issues, and started to generate income. More and more people signed up, falling in love with the idea. And before you know it, almost 50% of America had a credit card. Due to the craze for credit, shit was about to hit the fan quickly. People started abusing their Diners cards, biting off way more than they can chew, meaning at the end of the month, disaster struck for these people, and they were faced with a bill they simply couldn't afford. Thus beginning credit scores. A credit score is a 3-digit number, typically between 300 and 850, introduced to represent to the lenders your risk or chance that you'll actually pay their money back on time. You see, credit became a business to the rich. We'll get onto that shortly. But if you couldn't pay your money back, good luck trying to borrow money again. Lenders want security. They want to know their money is safe and they'll get it back. So if you had a decent credit score, over 650, they wouldn't think twice. But the lower this number got, the more risk you were for borrowing money. The numbers worked on that if you missed a payment, it would take a hit, then a bigger hit, until after 3 or 4 late payments, your credit score would plummet. The only way for you to get your credit score up was consistently making payments on time. Over a long period, trust me, if your credit score was low, bye-bye. It's attached to your name forever, and it became impossible for people to rebuild this because lenders simply wasn't lending them money. And here's how the rich, well, got even richer off credit. For years, rich people, governments, private banking groups have ran the financial world. Banks store your money, use it to buy safe assets, pay you a tiny percent of interest to keep you happy, while they turned your $10,000 into $50,000 and gave you $5 in interest. Banks and food companies with a lot of money in reserves offered credit, knowing 9 times out of 10 they would get it back, and at the end of the month also receiving some interest for lending you the money. As more and more people brought the idea of credit, the rich couldn't believe their eyes. These people were actually falling for the biggest scam in history. They were rubbing their hands with the amount of money they would receive, and it's never changed since. Debt eats away at your life, putting so much stress on your life. You simply can't cope. Ladies and gentlemen, finance is the #1 stress on average for the entire world. And what covers 99% of this? Credit. You've heard of the saying, right? Good debt vs bad debt. Banks and governments will tell you to take out more debt, knowing you'll use it for all the wrong reasons, like home upgrades, a mortgage to live in, the newest clothes drops, and even a college degree, etc, etc. They know it will leave you in such a shit position it messes up your finances for good, putting you in a 30-year cycle paying off your debt. But then, on the other hand, the self-made rich are telling you debt's amazing, it's the best thing to get rich, leaving your head scrambled and no idea what to do. You take debt out because deep down you think it's a good idea, end up needing it for some bullshit thing that pops up. Stop! Let me explain. Rich people use debt to buy assets that give them a higher return on what they were using it for. Bottom line. The biggest one being real estate. They take out a loan, credit, whatever it may be, borrow money, buy a house, use credit to make it all look nice, then rent it out for more money than what their mortgage is. The ultra rich take out a loan on their business, let's say $500,000, they use that for their day-to-day life throughout the year, knowing their assets will make them more money than that, leaving them with the whole year paid off before it's even begun. On the other hand, you're there taking out a $50,000 loan for a college degree that ends up being useless because you hate the job. Use credit to your advantage, not your weakness. Credit company after credit company, bank after bank offering credit cards. The rich were literally laughing at how stupid people were becoming at the idea of credit. It became an overpopulated market for them, as too many people were literally giving out credit. These companies needed to find a way to stand out. They know they couldn't persuade you with a basic credit card now. So, solution. Credit points and sign-up bonuses. Companies literally started offering you insane perks to sign up with them. It was a red flag staring at you straight in the face, but people didn't care. Their natural greed instinct kicked in. They wanted everything now, and their future self can deal with the bill. People would do anything for an initial high. Credit is like a financial legal drug. Companies would offer you $1,000 if you spent $3,000 in the first month on the card. Free plane journeys, free holidays, so much shit to get you blinded by the real problem. It became one of the fastest growing markets and ways to make money in history. And well, the numbers speak for themselves. 83% of Americans own a credit card. The average American has at least 3 credit cards, with the average American family in debt of around $6,700 in 2022. Wake up, the numbers are staring at you straight in the face. Use credit to your advantage or stay away for good. Purchase after purchase, laugh after laugh. The banks couldn't believe it. In 2020 alone, credit card companies made over $176 billion in income. This is even when a certain cough cough left you locked inside. Imagine the numbers these companies did in 2021 and 2022. Over $450 billion. Credit has quickly become a way of enslaving the poor people, giving the governments full control on your lives. If you're in debt, you're stuck in a hole. If you want a one-word answer to why the poor stay poor and the rich get rich, credit. Due to the outrageous number of people using credit cards, people started to find loopholes, what we call today credit card fraud. A system in which allowed offenders of this to purchase anything they wanted and not have to pay a penny. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, credit card fraud works like this. Basically, the person pretends to be someone else, and credit card companies couldn't keep track. They were getting a taste of their own medicine. Of course, in the eyes of the law, this was a big no-no, resulting in a lot of prison time, and after millions of dollars of research and improving systems, it's now relatively easy for companies and governments to detect credit card fraud. But of course, there's still thousands of people that commit credit card fraud every day and get away with it. If you're interested in learning more on credit card fraud and how a man had the whole US government and FBI chasing him for credit card fraud, I recommend a film called Catch Me If You Can. Ladies and gentlemen, unless used correctly, credit is the biggest scam in history. It's a system to keep the poor poor and never let them build any kind of money, let alone feeding the rich even more money. Use it to your advantage and watch your life change. They want you to use it for the wrong reasons, and right now, that's probably what you are doing. Credit equals debt, which is the controller of your life. And it's time you learn more about this because school systems have never even mentioned it. If you want to be serious about getting rich and taking action, then you need to learn how the top 1% hide and invest their money. So I've made this video right here which teaches you everything. Take action, click here.